And we're live. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm very privileged to have Jordan Abecasis on the line with me today. We're going to be discussing Jordan's origin story, his lessons learned along the way, and the perspective he has on business, leadership, and life. Jordan has a storied career and has summited multiple levels of success in his life. A biomedical engineer, um, an a biomedical engineer. He's the CEO and founder of ADAM Rehabilitation. He's invented a number of devices that have transformed people's lives across a number of spaces, and injury rehabilitation and prehab, to name a few. So, really fortunate to have you on the line. Thanks for coming in today,
Thank
Jordan.
you so much. You say you're privileged. I'm ecstatic to even have multiple conversations with you, and it's always a blast. So thank you very much.
100%, man. We make good conversational partners. So, my hope today is that we can get into a nice conversation that will render insights and value to those watching, uncovering the lessons learned. We were talking a bit beforehand that some of the most important lessons come through the most challenging times. And some of those times render trauma that we have to heal from after the
AKA
fact.
trauma.
But But
Yeah.
I think something we both have alignment on, that we found common ground in since we first met, even recently, is that we want to help reduce and shorten the learning curve for other entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And if we can help others avoid some of the mistakes or hard lessons that we've had to learn, then we'll do that. And I think that's at the intention and the heart of today's discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we can provide any sort of value from someone anywhere remotely close or along the journey or in the path and maybe struggling, and I'm fortunate enough to have learned the lessons the hard way, and hopefully you don't have to. And our guidance would possibly speed track you along without having to make the same mistakes that I did. Costly mistakes.
Cost Traumatic mistakes.
Dramatic mistakes. Things that only your
Yep,
therapist hears about.
right. Or your barber.
Yeah, or your barber. In my case, it's my barber. My barber knows more than I think
They are
some.
one and the same.
Right.
But let, so I think that's a fantastic pre-frame. Let's start with the ultimate question. Every superhero has a superpower, and in this context, I think a superpower can be attributed to entrepreneurs and those who have ambitions to change the status of their life, to shoot for something beyond what they currently have, and that is requires a combination of inherent gift, forged skill and discipline, and just a time on station and experience. And that's kind of what creates the superpower of you, the authentic version of yourself. So, if you've ever seen a Marvel film, a number of the thousands that have been released, you know that every great superhero has an origin story. So I think that's the best place for us to begin today, which is, what is Jordan's origin story? Professionally speaking, where did it all begin?
So, we're gonna swing all the way back to when I was 17. I had developed a knack for fitness as a way to escape what was my reality back then. For context and background, my grandfather passed away, who was my father figure, and I was really the man in the house after that. And that was, I have a little brother. I had to take care of him. My mom was working two jobs, and it was a very stressful time. She had also just recently got in a car accident, very bad. She had a full spinal fusion. Was told that she would never walk again. Um, and just to kind of speed line, mom is doing very well right now. Okay, and we're going to explain all of the things and the process of getting her very well. So I started fitness at a younger age, 17. I dropped out of high school. I took all of my frustration out of the gym. And when I say frustrations, I was in the gym 3 to 4 hours a day. I was eating meals in between exercise sessions, and my whole mentality was based off of an old school bodybuilding method, which was the harder you work, the more you grow. And the more you do, the more you grow. The harder you are, the more intense you are. So, I mean, I idolized Arnold and Ronnie Coleman, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Ronnie Coleman, Tom Platz, the legends of Jay Cutler, and really the people who paved the way for modern day bodybuilding in this time. And so I studied them in depthly and how they went about things. And of course, my own curiosity led me to doing a lot of research within, okay, how do you build muscle? How do you eat? How do you, and do you, how much do you need to sleep? How much do you really need to recover? And I experimented all on them myself before I even started working with anyone. And it, from about 17 to 19 is when I started seriously, we'll call it bodybuilding. I had always been an athlete. I had played football for 11 years. I had a total knee reconstruction before, so I was a little beaten up and bruised up. So I had my own issues that I had to deal with. But I found and learned a lot about movement mechanics in the time period and how the body grows, and that really started my journey there within my own bodybuilding. If we want, I can send you a picture of when I was bodybuilding, and at my peak, I was like 19 years old. I was about 230 pounds, probably about roughly 12% body fat, and that level of discipline and that level of just overall energy and we'll call it study time that I spent in the gym was all practice on myself. I was going to school. I was getting my AA at Palm Beach State College, and I was learning, basic pre-med, pre-physical therapy, pre-chiropractic stuff. So I was doing anatomies, my chemistries, all that. So I'm learning all of the anatomy. I'm learning how the body functions molecularly, physiologically, as I'm practicing and taking all of the things on myself. And I learned a great deal. I mean, I had gone through about 6 or 7 different cutting and bulking cycles. So I was getting really, really in the hang of it. I mean, I had gotten down to about 6 to 7% body fat, which is just before like stage ready, but I was very small. I was about 180 pounds, very light. And then I bulked all the way up to about 230 pounds, where I was very, very large, which took about 6,000 calories a day for about 8 months, 9 months to really bulk up. But because of but I didn't have a lot of responsibilities at the time. I was still living at home. I was working part-time at managing a nutrition store, and so all I did was eat, train. I studied a little bit. I didn't even really study. I kind of just showed up, and I studied all on my own about this muscular physical anatomy, and just to understand, how to grow, because I thought I was like, okay, I can do this. I can go be a bodybuilder. Well, I hit my peak, which was about 230 pounds, like I mentioned. I was very, very strong. My deadlifts were above 455 for three reps. I was squatting 315 for 5 sets of 10, almost every 3 days. I was even doing squats after my non-leg days. I was doing 225s for 5 by 20s. I mean, it was just it was an animal. I was an absolute animal. But I was suffering internally a lot, and within my own trying to figure out who I was, who I am, what do I care about, what do I even know, what am I doing here? So I took all of that with me to the gym, and I when I reached my peak, I at 230 pounds, I had a decision to make. I could have started the route to go pro. And for anybody listening this, if you don't know, pro bodybuilders are all on steroids. Okay, let's just and if a pro bodybuilder says that he's natural, he's lying to you. It's just really how it is. There are some natural bodybuilders that are pro, but you're never gonna see those giant guys that are 250, 200 pounds, 220 pound plus, super super lean, that aren't on steroids. And it's just what it is. So I had a decision to make: take steroids, go pro, right? Be an absolute monster, or I stopped getting C's in school and stopped focusing so much of my attention and discipline, the 4 hours a day that I was doing in the gym, and start applying that towards my education and actually help people moving forward. And I chose the latter. I said, okay, I'm going to stop bodybuilding like this, and I'm going to take that level of discipline that I have for the gym and my own self, and I'm going to apply it towards my education in an effort to help my mom. 19 years old, um, and I got accepted to FAU and Florida Atlantic University, and my mom gets really, really sick. Mom got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, mixed connective tissue disorder, hypermobility issues, Sjogren's, a slew of autoimmune disorders. So I was like, you know what? If there's anything that I can do with my life, it's to help my mom. And so I started along this path of, okay, I'm going to go to school. I'm going to go to medical school to help my mom. I had already had some prior background in the anatomy. I knew some physiology. I knew the muscular. I knew muscle development. I knew somewhat of metabolism and everything. And well, I shifted everything to understanding more about autoimmunity. But in the process of that, my mom was still experiencing this incredible neck and trap tightness where her shoulders were upwardly elevated and internally rotated, which is, what you would understand as poor posture. Hers were induced through a metabolic disorder as well as migraines and a mix of just lack of proper exercise because of her condition. She was very, very sick. And when I mean very, very sick, my mom was bedridden 5, 6 days out of the week. She might have gotten up for an hour or two in between. The medicine that she was taking to help try and control her autoimmune issues were killing her in the process. A lot of them were biologics, cancer agents, and things like that. And they're very, very toxic. And she didn't see a benefit from that. There were two routes here that I was doing simultaneously because this is all happening at the same time. Mom's got incredible neck tightness, shooting migraines, suffering a lot physically, and she's also dealing with an insurmountable amount of health issues, and she's dying every day. Okay, so for me, I'm living at home, I'm watching my mom wither away by the day. And I promised her if I was going to do anything with my life, it's to cure her diseases. I was also suffering in the process when I stopped bodybuilding um, and exercising so much. A slew of health issues did arise for me as well. I suffered with chronic fatigue issues that um, were very apparent. That actually started right when I was about 19 to 20. I was barely able to stay awake for more than 3 hours at a time. I would wake up at 10 o'clock in the morning and I'd be falling asleep at the wheel at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So it was very traumatic. I also started to develop serious chronic migraines. I was having migraines about 5, 6 days out of the week, and when I didn't have a headache, it was like a small recovery window. And I believe that the exercise was like subsidizing or diminishing some of the intensity of it because I was moving my body so much. But I still had headaches. I had suffered with chronic migraines since I was 15, and I had a sleep disorder all throughout high school that went undiagnosed and unsolved. Everyone said blamed it on stress. It was never stress. It was everyone said I had too much work on my plate because when I got to college, I again this simultaneous track pre-med, dealing with my mom, doing all that. Oh, you're stressed, you're anxious, whatever. It was never that. I knew that there was something wrong that nobody could figure out, nobody could handle it. So along this route, um, I started studying the metabolism. I ended up being introduced, I did a lot of brain research for myself to understand what the fatigue is coming from and understanding why and what's causing it. And actually, what's funny enough, the ketogenic diet saved my life and my mom's. This is something that almost nobody knows about my history is that I studied the ketogenic diet for intensely for about 2 years, nonstop. Really, about 6 months into my studying, I decided to start the practicing, and some of the greats in the field, Dr. Dom D'Agostino, thank you for all the research that you've put out, because it boosted me beyond levels of intention. Actually, I was invited to go up and meet him and see the lab up over at USF, and it was an incredible experience to be there and to see the research that they're doing and to even be a small part of it. Um, so I started along this ketogenic diet path, and come to find out, the ketogenic diet is not, it's not the weight loss solution that everyone thinks it is. It's a great solution, but for your metabolism and your brain health, it completely switches over the oxidative pathways, from being more um, gluconeogenic to being fat, and to do fatty acid lipolysis. So that's the burning of fat acids in your body and the fat in your body to use it as fuel. We're not going to talk about weight loss today. I don't even want to talk about it. But for me, it gave me, it allowed me to realize that my metabolic issue was stemming from an issue with my body absorbing glucose and using it as fuel properly and getting glucose into the brain. So I had a level of insulin resistance in my brain, which nobody knew because we don't have tests to test for. We don't have great abilities to understand as to why. Because I looked healthy. I had muscles, I was lean, whatever. I wasn't an overweight diabetic, but I had this insulin resistance issue where not enough sugar or energy was getting into my brain, and the ketones are the only other substance that can enter and pass through the blood-brain barrier naturally and provide your brain fuel. I did a 72-hour fast to jumpstart me into ketosis, and for the first time in my life, I woke up awake. It was like 20, 21, somewhere around there. And I ran out when I woke up for the first time, feeling good, crying to my mom. I said, "You're never going to believe this." And it was like magic. I can't, it's like if a unicorn threw a lightning bolt at me and gave me life. It was the first time in my life that I could ever remember being awake. And it's something that it was such a remarkable experience, and I hope that anyone suffering with the fatigue issue listens to this and understands, like, I'm not going to say that this is your general health solution, but it led me through a path of success. And without the ketogenic diet, I wouldn't be standing here today with you. All right. I was chronically prescribed Adderall, other stimulants, and I was taking sleeping pills 3 times a week prior to this for about a year, nonstop. I mean, I was max dose Adderall 2 to 3 times a day. I was taking instant releases Adderalls just to, and it wasn't for focus. It was just to keep me awake. I hated food. I hated eating again because every time I ate, I was exhausted. And it was just a horrible, I lost weight like crazy. I dropped right back down to like my 185 weight from after I was bodybuilding. And it was a very, very tough time. And to switch over to that type of diet, it gave me life again. So here we are, young me, eating, a ketogenic diet consistently. For the first time in my life, I have solid energy levels where I can stay awake and I can do this. I applied, I did this for about 4 months before my mom finally gave in to try it because I'm begging her. Because again, simultaneously, physical issues and we have her autoimmune issues. And again, I see her dying every single day. We had been to 70, 80 doctors, and I had been to all of her appointments, and I'm arguing with them. I'm arguing, I'm telling them, I said, what you're doing is not working. All right. Nonetheless, mom starts a ketogenic diet. She gets put in full remission. And I mean, she's up and moving again for the first time in her life in years. She's walking now. She's able to eat again. She's thriving. She's able to get in more than 1,400 calories without throwing up. I mean, it was just a monumental shift. So here I am, young me, solved one problem, right? Physical health. Okay, we're doing good. She's okay. She's alive again. But she's still suffering with incredible migraines. She's still suffering with an incredible trap tightness, neck and shoulder pain, and her physical body is still having an issue because of all the damage that had been done over the years. Now, with her situation, we had gone to physical therapy, we had done and tried the exercise, and I'm still coaching. I'm doing strength and conditioning coaching, and I'm still, accepting clients and I'm still working with clients. So I started working with her more in depthly one-on-one. And what I found is that number one, the majority of people don't know how to move their body correctly or feel the muscles that they're moving in order to activate them. So this muscular awareness, it's also called proprioception. So your bodily awareness and your muscular awareness and your proprioception of where your body is in space is a skill. It is not something that all people have. Now, yes, if you're a younger individual and you are born raised up into playing sports, you have a heightened bodily awareness. You know where your body is in space, you know how your body moves in space. But for the majority of individuals, especially the ones that are not athletes, this is something that has to be developed, and it takes longer when you're older. Just like learning anything is when you're older versus when you're a child. I mean, the learning curve changes, and now we have 20, 30, 40 years of compensations, misform, issues that develop, injuries that happen, whatever. So all of that is combined into, your current standing and understanding is that your body's awareness plays a pivotal role in the way that you strength train and the way that you develop muscle. You have to know how your body moves. And I was so successful in the gym because this is all I studied. And it didn't really click until I finished my first physics course, where I started understanding angular movement arms, gravity, and angular tension dynamics. And that's because your muscles are shaped in one way, okay? They're different, but they're all shaped in some certain way and they're meant to move in that certain way. And how you build muscle, it's very easy. You stretch the muscle, you contract the muscle with load, okay? You got to pull it away and you got to close it back up. That's how they grow. And when you start to understand that, you start to understand, okay, well, there's better angles to build muscle, and there's also more optimal ways to do it in a series of steps in order to go ahead and develop the proper musculature that you want in a balanced fashion. We see injuries most commonly happening, per se, in the shoulder because the chest is overtly tight and the back is weak. And I applied, and for whatever reason, most physical therapy is very conservative, doing basic mobility things. Everyone wants to feel good after each and every session, but nobody likes to grind and to work through and understanding like, hey, when you are at a physical therapist, like we need to progress you and we need to be we need to get you some muscle. The only way to build muscle is to progress. So progressive overload is a term that's used in physical exercise that takes you from one point and then the next week you do a little bit more and you do a little bit more, whether that's increasing resistance or increasing volume, like how many times you do the exercise and things like that. Well, all the physical therapists that we're doing with my mom to try and help this, it was all mobility. Everyone had to spend so much one-on-one time with her because she had low bodily awareness. She didn't know how to activate the smaller muscles in her body, and she was completely unstable. So anytime that she did try to pick up any type of weight, right, with her hands, her shoulders are all off, her hands were weak, her elbows were weak. She's overtly compensating with her biceps and her triceps and her traps because they're upwardly tight. And it was just such a big problem having to, even with me working one on one, it took me so much time to cue her and to stabilize her, to put her in the exact positions. We got nowhere. I mean, it took so long to even, and with all these steps and all these things, the person has to think so hard to get any type of result or even progress at all. It just takes 10 times longer than an individual who does have that type of bodily awareness and the stability, most importantly. So I had an idea, and this was a theory based off of something called reciprocal inhibition, which means that when one muscle's tight, the other muscle's loose. And this happens with every muscle. It's a balancing act within the body. So the muscles of the trap, right? The big muscles right up here, they shrug your shoulders, okay? Well, when these are constantly tight and your shoulders are elevated, the muscles that control the downward depression are extended, looser, and traditionally weaker. So while everyone's focusing on IR and ER, internal rotation, external rotation, and just doing basic mobility things, I started shifting my focus on strengthening the posterior chain to match with the anterior chain. And we did this, I developed this framework based off of all of the research that's involved with something called scapular dyskinesis, which is the movement impairment of the scapula. Okay, so that's your shoulder blades. So the shoulder blades are kind of shaped like this. They're a little triangle piece on the back of your shoulder blades. Well, they move up, down, they rotate up, they rotate down, and then they also protract and then retract. So elevate, depress, protraction, retraction, and then upward rotation happens when you lift up your arms and you go downward. All right. So we're trying to solve my mom's problem with the neck pain. So I know, okay, so I'm going to apply this theory, and my theory was if I strengthen the muscles that control for the depression side enough of the scapula, I should be able to relieve tension off of the top of the trap. Again, reciprocal inhibition, right? If one is tight, one is loose. If we tighten the bottom, then the top will become loose. Okay, seems logical. Let's see how it works. Okay, well, we try to do it again. Now I've got a problem with stability. I've got a problem with bodily awareness, and I have to correct those in order to implement that. So I start looking online. I'm like, all right, so I'm searching up things. I'm like looking for anything, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't need the arm involved. I don't need the arm involved at all. Actually, the biceps, the triceps, the hand, wrist, and the forearm are a limitation here, and we have energy leaks because all of this, like this will contribute to bad form. Okay, because here's the entire arm chain for an individual who has a shoulder or neck or posture problem. We're not worried about grip strength. I'm not worried about bicep strength. I'm not worried about tricep strength, and I'm not worried about the elbow at all in this process at all. Actually, if I stabilize the elbow, right, or anything at the elbow or above the elbow, all of the musculature connects to the upper part of the arm. So as long as I'm below right here on the arm, below like the midpoint of the bicep, I can now control for stability because all I'm moving is the humerus, right, the arm bone. I was like, okay, I'm onto something here. And so I started looking up things. I'm like looking it up, and I'm like trying to find anything. I'm like, come on, there's no way that nobody does this, right? There's no way that nobody thinks that if you stabilize the arm, you can access the shoulder blade more properly for the first time, or the upper shoulder chest girdle properly. So they did. So the people are smart. And what they would do is they would wrap the elastic bands, like a traditional elastic band, right at the elbow, and they would do certain motions. Okay, problem. Number one, feels horrible, right? You ever put a rubber band on your arm and with resistance and try to move. Two, another problem, I still have the problem with the motion arm and the direct way that the arm path moves in order to strengthen the scapula. So I have to set these perfect positions with this band at certain motions, bend my mom in certain motions, and have her move in very specific motions, single arm. It was just a nightmare. I was like, okay, this is obviously not a great solution. Solution, not great. All right. So I'm like, what if I make a brace that holds the arm and I just connect it with cables? I started looking up like brace with cables or brace, arm brace, with rings on it. Nothing. I'm like, no way. Keep searching. Nothing. Search for like 2 months. Anything. I'm like, there's got to be something here. Nothing. I'm like, okay. So she's stable with the diet. I'm stable with the diet. I'm still pre-med. I'm doing all this research, on my own. And so I'm like, all right, I start drawing and I'm drawing stuff out. And it's so funny that the first model is so simplistic and it's just so basic. And I've gone through 25 different iterations of this before, the commercialized product, which we have now. But it was basically just like, and actually the funnier thing is that my initial drawings were based off of just like an exterior skeleton. It wasn't even a brace. It was literally string, like like just nylon rope, flattened nylon rope that I stapled together to fit around an arm, and I like sewed rings onto it myself. And like if you can only like just think of like a skeleton of a brace, and that's what I had. And so I show my mom, and we kind of go through a couple motions with it. And there was a lot to be corrected, but it kind of worked. I was like, okay, cool. Sent in a patent search. I contacted an attorney, sent in a patent search. Nothing. I'm like, huh, all right. And and this is going to lead to a very powerful lesson learned for the entrepreneurs as I lead into this. But anyway, so I send in a patent search and I start designing and prototyping from my house. I'm looking for manufacturers. I was dating a girl that did a bikini line, so she was able to direct me to like some suppliers that had fabrics. And so I started ordering in fabrics, and I bought in like cutting scissors, and I'm going to all these like sew shops or whatever that sell like all the product, like the products to sew things together, like at home. And I take it to a tailor. This is so funny. I go and I'm trying to find anyone that can sew anything for me, right? Because I don't know how to sew. So I take my fabrics and I take my drawings and I go and I bring it to a local tailor, and he ran this guy was incredible. His name was Manny, and Manny, if you see this, blessings to you. I wish you nothing but love and success for the rest of your life, because without him, none of this would have been possible. Maybe I would have found someone else. I don't know. I'm sure I could have, but he opened his arms to me. He owned a dry cleaning business, and he also had a tailor there. And he's like, "Yeah, we'll help you." I'm like, "Great." So we start putting things together in this local little tailor shop in Coral Springs. Oh, what are they called? I don't remember his name. Anyway, so we put it together, and I have the first base model, right? And I I don't know how to market. I don't know how to do anything. I am a pre-med student. I don't know how to do anything, right? And like I was off the map, just grinding, like in total darkness, completely alone, just doing all this. So my first thing was like, I want to show the world this. So the city of Coral Springs, my grandmother sends me a link. She said, "Hey, look, Coral Springs is hosting its first innovative event." I said, "Okay." So I look it up. And hey, we're looking for the top innovators of Coral Springs to showcase this, da da da. So I was like, all right, fine, cool. Applied. They did like a little homemade video of what it was, showed them what it was, showed them what we do. Well, I got accepted. And they hosted this huge event. I mean, and it was just incredible. So this was back in 2019. Okay. This is where the timeline is. We're in 2019, and I showcased my first product. The mayor of Coral Springs comes sees me. I place second in the top innovator event, and I have pictures with the city and this huge thing, and it was just absolutely incredible. And I was incredibly fortunate to be a part of the process. I was totally unprepared for anything. I had a boxing um, like a heavy bag stand that I connected an elastic band to, for people to come and use the brace to come and see what I did. I mean, it was like this is like the base layer of the first initial contact. That was the first time anyone had ever seen anything like it. There were issues with the brace, and people, found feedback, and I didn't know how to position it correctly, and I didn't even know like what to call it. Like my patent is like a multifunctional therapeutic workout enhancement brace. Like that's the name of it. If anyone wants to check, you can go to Google Patents, or patents.google.com, and search my name, Jordan Abecasis, and you'll see the original patent, and you'll see the original drawings of the patent of what I submitted it to. All right. So that was there. And I thought, I was patent pending. I was like, oh, I'm protected, it's fine. But because I was so busy with school, I'm still not an entrepreneur yet. I'm just an inventor. That's all I am. I invented this thing. It's not even really working yet. My mom's the only one who's using it. I only have one, like one set, because I made it myself at the tailor down the road. And so now we start the process. Well, how do we do any of this? I was like, okay, so my thought was that, and again, I had no mentors, I had no advising. I'm doing all this on my own. I'm doing all the research on my own. I'm doing everything. I have no marketing experience, nothing. I don't even start marketing. I don't have a website. I have nothing. I have nothing. I didn't have a product. Nothing. I had no guide, no formula, no system, nothing yet. Everything was just what I was applying, and I just wanted to show people what I had. So that continues on. I'm in medical school, or I'm still in my undergraduate, and I'm studying medicine, and I'm getting more and more involved with medicine. And it really seemed like, okay, my mom's still, she's in remission, but she's still not doing great. I still have to go to medical school, still path, right? So I'm not, I thought I was going to be able to do all this. And I didn't do, because I had no advising, I had no one to help me. I didn't do a real customer validation, market validation piece during that time at all. Actually, I showcased it once and I went straight back to the drawing board to try and fix all the issues that it had. Because again, local made tailor shop, not done, not great. It's sliding on and off the arm. It's not safe, not stable, not doing the best of its job. Good, not perfect. All right. Not even it, not even close to being commercial ready though, right? So we're not even there yet. So we take I take that and I go ahead, I go back to the drawing board and I contact my attorneys. A year passes by, I get nowhere, really. My patent pending is up, and I have to pay the attorneys to file the patent, right? Because I was like, oh, I have to patent this. I mean, nobody's gonna do it. Nobody has this. This is my idea. It's worth, I'm doing, projections in my mind. I can sell this many. I can do this. I can do that. And so I have to patent it. So I spend whatever $10,000 patenting the product. I did the design and utility patent. And here's my segue back to all the inventors right now that have a patent pending idea. Nobody cares that you have a patent if it's not worth anything. If it's not sellable, nobody cares. If it's not generating revenue, no, you are not on the map. Nobody's going to steal your idea when you have no revenue. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. All right? There are some exclusions to that. There are some exclusions I can understand, like software pieces and whatever. But for a physical product, if you design and you get a utility patent on a physical product, there's not a single company in this world that's going to waste its time and to sit here and to try and remake what you did when there's no proof it's the market or the clients even want this. There's no validation. You have nothing. You have an idea, right? So lesson learned, if I would have known that, I would not have filed for the patent then. Okay? I would have spent my money on doing a true market validation. Okay? And that's the segue. So, and if you have the money early on to do the market validation, once you submit your provisional patent, which is your one-page patent, which is only going to cost you $500 at most, you can do it yourself. I think the USPTO charges like $200 or something if you do it yourself. And there's books you can read on how to do it. And if you go ahead and you take that 1 year and do a full market validation, you're now going to have an understanding as to whether or not people will actually pay for your device. All right. I didn't do that. Learn from me. Take the time of your 1 year and find out if you will make money from this. If the problem that you solve is significant enough to make the money. All right. So we patented it anyway. I I start now. I'm working while I'm in college. I'm doing very good. I'm in medical sales. I was actually fortunate to land a medical sales job in the oxygen business about a month or two before the COVID fallout. All right, so we're making good money. I'm very successful. I'm doing very good, and now I have money. I've got money rolling in. I can go ahead and I can start paying for things to be done. I re-engineered everything, paid a developer to go ahead and generate CAD files. I start sourcing from manufacturers, and I'm doing this, I'm doing that. We go through about 20 iterations of the product before I get to like what I believe is like my test prototype model, and I start using it on my mom. And during that time period, I'm working full time. I'm studying for my master's again, and my master's was in biomedical engineering, and I'm doing 100-hour weeks grinding, 16-hour days. I'm up at 6. I go to bed at 10 or 11 every night for 2 to 3 years. All right. So we get I get to the final prototype model, and I'm actually able to figure out if this works or not. I designed the system, designed the framework, everything was done. I get my models in. Within 3 weeks, my mom's 9 out of 10 pain went down to about a 2.5 to a 3 out of 10. 3 weeks. And it was just an incredible experience to see that happen in front of my eyes. Why did it work? I stabilized the arm. By stabilizing the arm, we eliminate form dysfunctions. The system itself is designed to move the body in all functional ranges of motion. And I built a progressible system that allowed her to increase resistance over time in order to progress her out of the current standing. The first time she did, she could barely do 5 reps of each exercise. Second time, she's doing closer to 10. Third time, she's upping resistance now. Fourth time, she's upping resistance again. She's strengthening again. And I built this system to not only satisfy someone that has problems and pain, but also to satisfy someone like myself who was a strength coach to go ahead and get me an excellent and proficient workout itself. So I built a system that translated not only from the injured and the pain population, but along the same principles of biomechanics and muscular development that I had learned when I was a bodybuilder. So all of that time that I had spent, I translated it into my system, and which is now based off of 8 core workouts, and eight core movements that you do. And with the new mobile kit that we have developed, that I developed with the elbow braces itself, I perfect the form dysfunctions and perfect the arm path movements for perfect angular tensions. Again, back to the very beginning of what I was talking about, and I know it sounded like a bunch of mumbo jumbo because what is this even relevant for? But that translated into perfecting the device now, into all of the movements, into strengthening the muscles in the right way, and allowing those tiny, tiny muscles that are only about this big in your back to contract and allow you to feel them moving for the first time.
Nice.
Now we go across about a year later, and we're in over 40 different physical therapy and chiropractor clinics. We have had about 450 current units in circulation being used, all with positive feedback. The only time that I ever got a return was because someone didn't open the box and they said, "I'm not going to use it, send it back." It was one out of a total of 450. I have clinics using this in 50% of their total patients, whether they have shoulder or upper body or postural pain or not. They're using this. So that was a huge thing for me. And I sped through a little bit, and I'm gonna let you plug in here if there's something that we want to touch on before I continue on with my own stories and everything. But the biggest jump was the moment that I had validation from my mom that I did solve the problem and the pain went away. And I knew I had something monumental. And that's the point I would have patented it, knowing that now.
Fantastic origin story, Jordan.
That's yeah, that's where we are. And then all of the rest of it was now, again, inventor guy, right? Inventor guy, medical guy, going to medical school. That guy, the engineer, that needed to switch to a CEO. And that switch took an entire 10, 12 months. And to understand, I didn't even know what I was selling. I didn't even know what I had. I built this incredible system. I called it the hands-free brace at first because I was like, oh, my mom can't use her hands well. She has form dysfunctions, whatever. It's a hands-free brace. I thought that would resonate with people. No one got it, right? No one understood that. No one understood what a hand. I have a banner that I used up at my first show at the FPTA conference, the Florida Physical Therapy Association. It says innovative hands-free brace or something like that. Revolutionary hands-free brace. But that's not what we did, right? So here I am, the inventor. No way to communicate what I have. No way. I'm young, I'm naive. I'm not even that young, but I'm just naive and I don't know how to be a CEO or a business owner at all. And so I'm figuring it out. Again, no help, no assistance yet. Yet. All right. We shift over, we get over to finding out, why isn't my product selling? Because nobody knows what it does. I'm like, oh, well, it's a brace that helps fix your shoulder and neck pain. Okay. Wordy. No way to really frame that well. Sounds weird. Um, didn't resonate. And again, I was like, well, how do I translate this to people? So I start talking more. And I'm selling. I'm selling. I am selling. Um, I was selling all the way throughout from November to February pre-orders, and I had gotten a significant number of pre-orders. Again, it was selling. People were buying it off of just my samples, that the commercial ready samples, but it wasn't there yet. I'm like, okay, well, what do I even do? What is the problem that I'm solving? And I realized very quickly, not quickly, but I realized over time that I have created a postural restoration device. And I didn't know that at first until my clients are like, hey, I'm breathing better. My back pain's gone. I'm standing up taller. My neck pain's gone. My shoulder pain's gone. I'm like, hey, I don't just have a shoulder pain or a neck pain. I have a full postural restoration piece that's really doing something to their bodies in a very um, inclusive way that nothing else has been done before. Again, reciprocal inhibition, all of my motions have equal and opposite reactions on each motion. So every muscle that is pulled also gets tightened in a different and opposite motion. There's a very technical guideline and system that I built to balance the body correctly, because with a balanced body, you now have no pain, right? Because everything is pulling in the directions that it has. And if you're too far forward, then we pull you back. What is that? That's posture. How do you fix your posture? You stand up, right? Right. So you pull your arms back. Well, if your muscles don't work well, how are you going to do that? You can't. Posture braces aren't going to fix your problem. It's not going to fix a problem at all. You put a posture brace on and it holds you back, sure. And it might, but it's the same thing as stretching. It's not going to solve your problem. You have to strengthen the muscles in order to put them in the proper position to realign the bones. So that way you can go ahead and correct for the anatomical dysfunctions that you have, the upwardly elevated scapula, the impingement in the shoulder. Those are all connected because of your scapula, the overtly tight chest, the overtly tight lat. Some people can't raise their arms past here. That's because of a tight lat. And these problems are all solved through my one main system, which I didn't know how to communicate it. But it is a full postural restoration device, and that is why we saw so many dramatic results. And it took me 8 months of selling a product to figure that out. It was incredible. So, for those listening, understand that your business is dynamic. It changes, it moves. Your wording needs to move. It needs to adapt with what the customers resonate with. Because guess what? People don't understand what a hands-free brace is, but they sure as hell know what postural restoration is. And whatever it is, as long as it works, they don't care. They're not going to question whether or not, oh, well, what's this silly little arm brace thing? No, it's a postural restoration device. It's the first exercise system that allows you to restore your posture, to end your pain, and also prevent injuries moving forward. And here we are. Just doing me, and helping change people's lives, and one by one step at a time, right? It's all started in February when I got product. 2023,
Thanks for sharing that,
this year.
Jordan.
Yes. There's a lot more to learn, and there was a lot more to share with, just even in the process of marketing and advertising and learning how to sell these things. And I know we've been going for a little bit on this, and I've been going on this was very heavy, but for an entrepreneur who's learning how to sell something, I'm going to give you this very, very simple piece of advice. You cannot speed up your business if you don't 100% know what you're selling and what you're doing. You have to go through the market validation, and the sales validation and the customer responses before you even think of hiring an agency to help you with this. Because nobody is going to be able to do this for you. No one. You have to get the market on board first, and then an agency will help elevate you from there. But if you don't have the market validation, the wording, the proper messaging done, you are going to I spent $50,000 down the drain that gave me zero ROI, zero, because I thought that I could speed track my way to success by hiring an agency and getting someone who knows marketing and advertising to sell my own product for me. And unfortunately, that's not how it works. So tell those agencies goodbye, figure it out first, get a simple revenue stream going and flowing, learn a little bit of advertising yourself, study Alex Hormozzi, right? Make your offer, learn how to sell leads, learn how to build leads, learn how to provide, make content on your thing, and get a steady stream going first before you even consider fast tracking your way into success. And I promise you, you won't spend the $50,000 that I did that literally got flushed away like Drano. There we have it.
Now that's planting the flag perfectly for a follow-on discussion.
Yeah, right. The next one. So Jordan, tell us about your experience with your marketing agencies and where they went wrong and what you did next to figure it out, right?
I think there's a lot to unpack on the front of market validation.
Yeah,
So that is we're perfectly pre-framed for that next discussion now.
yeah. We're ready. We're
Thank
ready to
you.
talk about the process of what I have learned from and only learned because of mentors and advising. And it's imperative you have them. Find someone in your niche, find someone in your field you can study, or as Logan or that just mentioned, that we're going to be talking about it next. And you can learn from me.
To summarize and distill down a key takeaway from this, Jordan, you've touched on a few of the lessons learned over your journey, the timing for filing the patent, the order of operations on needing to do market validation first, not engaging with an agency prematurely. You've touched on a few of those. If you could summarize the key lessons that you wish you knew then what you know now, what would you tell your younger self or another entrepreneur who's picking up the torch on their own project?
Give your everything that you have away and all of your knowledge for free in hopes to reach the masses and develop a brand for yourself and for your business as to what you do. I didn't record any of this. No, I worked in the dark. I worked in the shadows, the old school mentality mindset that I have to protect myself. Nobody can know what I'm doing because it's so significant, right? High and mighty me, right? Silly me. And when you have something incredible, share it. Protect yourself a little bit. File the provisional patent. Okay, you can go do that. Fine. You have a 1-year patent pending, but share it immediately. Share the journey. Share the process. Share what you do. Share why you do it. Explain how you do it, and just don't think about money immediately. Because I did. That was the whole reason why I protected. Oh, I can't let anyone steal my idea or make money. On my first and foremost, it's about first to market. Get it done. If it's 90% done, get it done, get it out. Okay. 2, that process was a little bit slower for me just because it was during COVID. I did want to, so the whole manufacturing process was just totally messed up. But get it out there. Don't chase perfection. Get it good enough to be able to be worked on, and try and keep your sample size low. Don't order too much of your first product. or of too much of anything. Don't go overtly expecting things to happen when you have no audience base. The only time that people are successful with huge launches is if you already have brand awareness and you already have an audience that's engaged with you, that listens to you. Okay. So if you are one of those, great. Okay. But if you're not, which most of us aren't, um, you know, begin branding yourself and what you do and why you're an expert in the field early on, as early as possible, and give as much free content away as possible. If your free content is better than someone's paid content, guess who now has a lead or more leads because they're now after you. So give out all of that free content, give away your knowledge early on, and document as much as you possibly can along in the process of everything that you learn in, along the way. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to that something might change later on. If it changes later on, that's fine. Correct yourself. Say, you know what? Hey, I learned something new. And guess what? But you have that audience base, and they're listening to you, and they're watching you, and they're learning from you. Give yourself the opportunity to build a personal brand while you're in the R&D phase of whatever you're doing. Document it and share it. Go find a mentor and try to understand that filing a patent's not going to solve your problems or get you money in any type of way. Filing a patent may protect you, but nobody cares if it doesn't make money. So go figure out how to make money.
Mic drop moment.
Yeah. Right.
Make money.
Yeah.
Find out how to make money. Nice. Fantastic. Thank you for breaking all that down.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it, Jordan.
Yeah.
It's a inspiring origin story.
It was deep.
What didn't we look at that we should on the next one, besides the market validation and agency piece?
We didn't go into like sourcing, providing manufacturers. We didn't talk about prototyping, development skills, CAD files, die cut lines, if you're doing soft goods, any type of physical product, prototyping designs, the iterations in between those. All the manufacturing process is also a big R&D piece along with it. And then, of course, just all of the validation that you really need to have by your side in order to make something incredible and successful.
So now we have the themes for our next discussion.
We're gonna have a book, and you're like,
No doubt about that.
Share the story. Here's where I went wrong. Here's where I started. Here's how it ended up. And by the way, as a high school dropout to continue my education, I have my master's in engineering, patent inventor. I just want to say, if there's anyone here that listens to this, just don't give up on yourself. And if you're there where I was in a very, very, very troubled state, dealing with a lot of mental health issues at a young age, I want you to understand that as long as you take things day by day and you continue to progress, before you know it, things are going to come out to the horizon. You're going to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's going to give you a breath of fresh air. Just work hard, keep putting your feet forward, don't give up on yourself, and believe in yourself to do something magnificent. And if you don't know what you love yet, try everything you can possibly think of to find something that you love, and do it as much as you can until you find it. And as exhausting as it is, just don't stop. Just don't give up on yourself, because you can do it. It sounds cliche because there's people that say this, if I could do it, you could do it. I didn't think I was going to see my 25th birthday. 25th birthday came around, and it was an incredible moment for me, right? And I just I hope that there's someone here listening to this that needs to understand to follow and to continue to push and push yourself to being the best person that you can be while we're on this planet, and take life as a blessing and a miracle that we're able to sit here and to do this today. And as a young entrepreneur, the world may seem like it's collapsing, but you have it in your fingertips. You just gotta flip your hand around and hold it up. Now I walk off stage. I gotta
Jordan, I've got big respect for your journey, recognize you as an entrepreneur in the highest regard. I think there's a lot to learn from you, and I appreciate you coming on the line today to share with myself and the
It was a
audience.
pleasure. Thank you.
I'll see you in the next one.